Hello, everybody. This is Oakwalker again, and I'm back here with Stronghorse, my good friend. And we're here as Earth Medicine for the Soul podcast. We love doing these things, and we are ready to continue on with our discussions. Today, we think we want to talk a little bit about intention again, because it seems like that's sort of the crux of the shift here that we're undergoing. And it appears that really that's where push comes to shove, doesn't it? Is what are your intentions and do they matter? And how does that work? So I'm going to let Frank open this because I know that he has a good way of opening up dialogues such as these.
Well, I think pulling back from our last podcast, we were talking about how it's going to be real important to start integrating authenticity, and one of the ways to do this is start becoming conscious of not being performative, you
Yes.
know. And so there's when you're doing intending, when you're setting your intentions, there's a vast difference between intending out of authenticity and intending out of performance.
Good
And
point.
when you're intending out a performance, there's usually somebody else or something else involved. You're trying to get paid or get liked or be liked or, be accepted, or I mean, just yada yada yada. And when you're intending out of authenticity, you're attempting to assimilate into an environment that is currently accepting you as a part of it, of being it. And so when you take that step into becoming, which is, the ultimate part of that would be co-creation with God, but
Uh-huh.
on the initial step would be like just becoming authentic with everything that's around you, then you get support in your intending.
Yeah.
It's like, because we call them allies,
Yeah.
but you have there's a power and a strength involved in that people who are performing don't know. They don't understand that, and it's, I mean, you can argue with them until you're blue in the face. They're never going to understand it unless they actually take the leap of faith. And so I think with this great shift that's coming on, that's going to be a huge, huge part of us becoming human beings, because we start to realize, wait a minute, there's an unfolding of me being a human that is completely different than anything we've ever experienced before. Because before it was like, well, if you're going to be a human being, here's how you do it. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. You make this person happy, you make that person happy. You pay this per, and on and on and on. And this is a whole new program, man. Whole new program. And once people start seeing that you're able to assimilate within your environment, and use that assimilation as a support or a force mechanism to your intending, things start happening. So you start manifesting, and I think this is a whole new field.
Yeah, I agree. I think that um, intending performatively is akin to paddling upstream, for
Right.
example. It takes 5 to 10 times the effort to get anywhere, and you're going against the flow. And by that, I mean the flow is so many ways to put this. It's the way the creation is going, it's the way the creator is already moving. Some might say it's the will of God. That would be another way of looking at it, right? So the when my intention is to align myself with the creative flow, then what manifests out of that are going to be the things that I require to sustain my life and to sustain my growth and happiness. That's just a natural result of going with that flow, the
And
way I see
I
it.
think that the sacred laws are the formula for this.
Yeah,
Because if you take, for instance, maximum effect with minimum effort,
right.
that's what you're talking about. And so you find that when you're working with the energies and the powers that are there to support you, and so your intending creates or manifests out of the love that is there in support of you, and it becomes a thing that is a natural progression. It's a natural assimilation and it's a natural sense of intending manifestation. And I
Hmm.
think this is going to be, I mean, huge. I think it's just going to get huge, and, the struggle right now is for the patriarchies is really holding on because they don't know how to exist out of anything other than performance. They just
Uh-huh.
don't, and so they're terrified. What happens? What do I do? Where do I go? How do I exist? And
Yeah.
you got to have, I have compassion for them. I feel sorry for them. I mean, you look at what's going on in our, wonderful government, and you think, man, this is a bad play. You know, I don't even just be over.
Yeah.
You know, just drop the curtain. Oh man. But it's got to go. It's got to happen. Because the old system's got to break down. They just do, and the only way they're going to break down is if somebody steps in. I saw an interview the other day where this woman was saying, Trump's a destroyer. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it's like. Collie. I mean, he's come here to do that, to destroy these old systems because they have to fold. They just do. And what's going to be replacing it is a better
Oh,
world,
there you
a
are.
better human, and a better existence.
Yep. And which brings us back to that that sorry realization that you have to appreciate the destroyer, even though he's in this case vile, no kind of a role model, not the person that you'd ever want to be. This is just horrible, right? It's just terrible. But some of the things that are breaking down, that he's breaking down, we don't need to build back again. That it's just not going to be necessary.
Well, there you
And
go. There's the crux of the issue. I mean, people have to get to a point within themselves where they go, I'm just done with that.
yeah,
I'm
yep,
done with that.
yep,
And they've got, which means then they got to go. But what am I supposed to now?
yep,
What am I supposed to, and I mean, look at all the people that have stood up and said, he's the second coming of Christ.
right.
That's gonna be a rough few years coming ahead. It's gonna be, now what? Well, that didn't work.
Hmm.
So now what?
And
You
and
know,
so
and,
we
and
have
I
to.
think it's just across the board. I mean, that's what's happening.
Hmm. Hmm. And the only way out is to just stop trying to be part of the crowd and get yourself into a true self-analysis of what is it that's necessary, what's important, what works. Functionality is another big deal that I don't think is being looked at very well. Um, Things are not working. Capitalism isn't working. I mean, it's got a lot of benefits to it. It beats the hell out of some other systems, but unrestrained capitalism without any kind of controls is killing people. Really, it isn't, it's only benefiting a few. and it's not something that everybody. So there's that. Patriarchy is not working. The idea of colonialism is not working. The idea of coercion, all of this stuff kind of boils down to coercion. How do you get what you want? And the fact that we've been a coercive, that coercive has been allowed for so long, we have to really sit back and reconsider these things. And I don't think I would have been able to do that if I hadn't been connected to those nature spirits and those flows of energy that help me understand that all of this works together. Everything works together for the benefit of the whole globe, right? The whole planet.
Yeah,
And
and
by
that's
extension,
it's
huh?
exactly where we're headed to. I
Yeah.
mean, that synchronicity,
Mhm.
that harmonic resonance, and my the only time that I've experienced that was, when there was times when I had a place down in Mexico, and I would occasionally hike by myself up through the Sierra Madres, and I'd get into these places where very few people ever gone, or if they had, it was not that many people, but it was nature in its most prime essence and
Mhm.
innocence. And I was overwhelmed with it. I mean, I really was. I mean, I would sit there and look at and just feel everything and think, oh my God, I've never felt anything like this ever. And it was very, very what I coined a phrase called psychic pollution. And I think that that's another piece that we can put under the umbrella of performance.
Yeah.
When you're performative, you end up creating this psychic pollution that interferes with the synchronicity of everything that is going on around you, and then you end up in therapy. You know, Basically that's what happens. I mean, people are like, I can't understand what's going on. Well, the problem is that you're just you haven't been introduced to authenticity, and
Yeah.
we could get into a whole discussion about therapists, but in any case, I think that's what we're trying to do is drop a few seeds of enlightenment here that will allow people to understand what's coming.
Hmm.
What is it going to be like a human being in the next 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 years, and that's what we're trying to get to, I think. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I think that brings us back to a topic we've discussed before, which is safety again, because it's imperative to know that when that pathway to authenticity is also the pathway to feeling the safety that you actually already have. The it because Oscar would always used to say, um, fear is false evidence appearing real. And I always love that because there's really nothing to be afraid of. So safety, feeling unsafe is a fear. It's a fear that things are not going to go well for you. And but what I've noticed is that no matter how tired I get, there's always another little bit of energy. I can always make it home. No matter how sick I get, I can always get home. I can always get rest. I can always get what I need. No matter how bad things appear to be going, and I've been homeless, there's always a way to come out of that. There's a path out of everything. And this is the safety net that we all have. The ultimate safety net is that even if you the new term for this is unalive, even if you become unalive and your body dies, you still have the essence of yourself, that soul flame is still in existence and it's still conscious and it's still there. You are essentially in the core of yourself already eternal. There's nothing that can take that away from you.
Right. Well, I think, and I think that what comes to my mind is that when we're still on this, fear is what keeps people locked into performance.
Mhm.
They think they have to they have to fit in and be something that's going to provide them with all the massive amount of stuff that they think they need, and stuff is really just another form of entertainment. you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it is. And so, the, it's okay to do that, but you got to have the distinction so that, your identity is invested in becoming authentic. It's not
Hmm.
invested in accumulating stuff.
Right.
That's really I mean, that's the crux of capitalism right there. I mean, it's capitalism took a turn for the worse when everybody started aligning with uh, their identity with being successful or having money or having stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I saw an interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and he was talking about how somebody was explaining to him. He says, what you got to understand. He says, when this country first started, the people that created massive wealth, like the Rockefellers and all these different people that, it took them a long time. I mean, it was a lot of hard work and a lot of effort. This now we've got all these guys who've accumulated massive amount of wealth overnight,
Hmm.
and it's got to where everybody thinks, well, I'm supposed to be doing that. Why doesn't that happen to me? And
Uh-huh.
so they're invested in this illusion that's been created by these techno nerds out of Silicon Valley that
Uh-huh.
everybody's supposed to have a crypto bank account worth $10 million, and it's
And
just
if you don't, you're stupid.
yeah, you're an idiot. And
Uh-huh.
so you got all these angry, pissed off young white boys running around. Well, I'm going to go shoot up the local Safeway. I mean, God, it's really insane, But
Yeah.
again, you have to go back and you got to think, well, we've got to get to that point where people go, I'm just done with this. I'm just done with this.
Uh-huh.
I'm done. I'm done with the Peter Thiels. I'm done with Elon Musk. I'm done with the Trump. I mean, I just don't. I'm done with all that. It
Hmm.
just makes no fucking sense anymore. And I refuse to participate
Hmm.
and perform.
Yep. Because what does make sense, I keep going, what does make sense is dinner, right? The, from the beginning of human history, the efforts that we've made, you get up in the morning. If you're a hunter-gatherer, you go out and you gather food. You have some food left over from last night. You have a quick breakfast or a light meal. You go out and you gather food. You could be eating all day. You, but it's about dinner. You go get dinner, right? That's what it is. Life is about knowing where to poop, how to stay clean, getting dinner, and staying dry. And after that, there's not a lot more going on than that. And that's what animals can do it. Babies can do it if there are feral children who learn how to survive, right? Anybody can do this thing. But it requires knowing where you are in nature, you know? It's this flow of nature that matters here. How to get dinner and shelter and clothing is how to be in nature, being a being in nature. And that's,
Yeah, and I think if you follow that formula, then it's going to give you time and space to be able to experiment with your spirit. You know,
yes.
you're able to transfer over into, okay, well, let's go work with this part of myself now because, I've taken care of this physical thing, it's going to be okay, and so I mean, I think that shift is coming where previously it's always been about let's it's all about the physical. It's all about the physical, and if you
Uh-huh.
if you bring up anything about the spirit to most people, they just do the eye roll, and
Yeah.
and because they just haven't had that experience like you and I have. They haven't Sundance. They haven't gone into
Yeah.
these sacred ceremonies. I mean, so we can sit there and talk about it like it's you know, there's us going to the grocery store and buying cantaloupe, because it's just we've done it, and we know what cantaloupe tastes like and we like it,
Uh-huh.
you know. But for those who haven't had the experience, it's a tough. I mean, I get it, man. It's a tough road to open that part of themselves up. But again, I think the cavalry's on the way. I mean,
Yeah,
I've said this in many, many arguments with a lot of different other shamans and stuff. And I've said, what's going to happen is the environment is going to change. And biologically, you're either going to adapt or perish.
yeah,
Pretty simple. And evolution has always been about that.
yeah,
If you adapt, you thrive. If
yeah,
you don't, you perish. And that is what's going to happen here. And it's happening right now.
yeah. And this this doesn't mean that we have to give up all of technology. This doesn't mean that you have to go and build a mud hut and sleep with ants and, you know, turn into a hermit. And we can keep the technology as long as we can adapt the technology into something that is no longer against nature. We can have all the technology we want as long as nature comes first. And if we do that, we can evolve our technology and our spirit and our natural beings all together into a truly advanced species, the kind of species that can go from planet to planet and coach primates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm totally on the same page with you on that. And I think that we're going to, when contact is made, that they're going to bring to us those examples, like, look, here's where you're off base with your technology.
Mhm.
Here's where you can adjust that, and,
Yeah,
and here's where you need to be going. This is what you need to be focusing on. And of
yeah, you're
course,
taking and not giving back here. That has to be a circle. Technology has to be a circle. You can't take too much just for the sake of technology. You've got to give back everything you took. It's got to balance. Otherwise, it's going to fail. And that's what we've been doing so far.
yeah, I talk about it. You looking in the form of trade of energy.
Mhm.
There's every time that you expend some energy, there's got to be a trade, and more energy's got to come back to you. And so it's balance, man. If you can create a balance between technology and our uh, uh, integration into the natural world, it's a perfect scenario. I mean, it really is. It's perfect, in terms of how things. But co-creation they'll probably have some functions coming up through technology that will help people learn how to co-create just from a spirit to spirit basis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on right now with mushrooms and this and that, that are helping people to experiment with their psychic
Uh-huh.
part of themselves,
Yeah.
um, that'll probably expand and evolve into teaching models that'll
Yeah.
assist people in that. I mean, because it's going to have to come from a lot of different directions. It's not going to just be a couple of guys sitting on their computer in Lockhart shooting the shit. you know.
Well, I hope I'm assisting in some way.
Yeah, we have to too. So, somebody's hopefully somebody's listening.
Right.
Oh man. All right. Well, what else?
Well, we're at 26 minutes. So I think that we can wind that down now.
Okay.
We've been having internet. You froze a couple of times, so let's not tempt fate and get into another topic that we might not be able to finish and say goodnight to everybody.
All right.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Good night, everybody, to our famous listeners and viewers. You can reach us at earth-ems.org if you want to look at our pictures or sign up for whatever else we can do out there. We're working on good stuff and new stuff, and I hope that you come back and join us again. So good night.
Peace.
Peace.